Okay, this video supports the installing piSignage open source digital signage platform version in the cloud on a Linux and Ubuntu installation. And this is part of our developers track. We'll be building out specific applications and hopefully accompanying videos across a couple different tracks around the media players, some OTT open source OTT providers, but this particular video falls into our open source digital signage track, and we've got a couple different uh, open source digital signage platform providers that we're looking at today. We're going to start with piSignage. I think it'd probably be a little bit helpful to provide just a little bit of context at this point, and why we're doing this. And so we're a very early stage media tech startup at this point, and we're developing middleware applications that work with these open source signage providers. We're specifically interested in protocols for smartphone to big screen transactions and interactions. So if you think about this particular track, the digital signage track, this would be an out of home type of experience, a second screen experience in retail locations, stadiums, airports, doctor's offices, restaurants, bars, um, you name it, anywhere where they have out of home digital signage displays right now. When you abstract that with city screen middleware, you can create some really incredible types of experiences, very interactive and very engaging for your target audiences. And so that's why it's really important to us at this stage that we work very closely with the open source platform providers and with developers and our agency partners, so that we help them get these types of platforms off the ground, because this is where we're going to live, and we need these programs installed, the ones that we like and we think work well, and are worthwhile for our customers, the ones we'd recommend. And so what we're doing is really trying to create an environment where developers can and come and work with us and learn, and then hopefully, ideally, uh, start to apply some of our middleware technology to extend these platforms into some really exciting new areas. This is just a really basic diagram that kind of shows where we would sit in the stack as a middleware, and I won't get into all the specifics of what we're doing right now because that's definitely not the purpose of this particular video. It is to look at the piSignage application. So if you're not already on following this tutorial and you arrived here from somewhere else, where piSignage, it's piSignage. Their website is actually very well documented. You can see they've got a doc section here. I would definitely recommend going and checking that out. But basically, they frame themselves as a do-it-yourself signage, and they provide the player technology, and they also provide the cloud or server side technology as an open source. You can buy it hosted and pay a monthly fee, or you can use their open source version, and that's what we are doing today. We will be using their open source version. And just to kind of give you a little bit of a visual here, so your local server here, it's this blue dot, and we're going to be bringing over the piSignage platform through their GitHub repository. And as you can see from these arrows here, we've got different players, and multiple players in different locations can connect up to your local server with running piSignage, and you can control the content uh, across the different players, across the different TV screens. So in this particular case here, it's not the most dramatic or dynamic or interactive example I could think of. I guess we could probably do better, but it looks like we got like banana TV. But anyway, the TV here in this retail store would be one of these players, and the player would connect up to your cloud, your installation of piSignage. In that installation of piSignage is a content management system, just like WordPress, I guess, would be a good analogy, maybe, where you store all of your files and how you want those files, images, etc., displayed. And this display area on the TV is then controlled um, by your piSignage installation. In this particular scenario here, it looks like we've got some weather forecast, something like that. That's probably, I'm assuming, a native function within piSignage. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that it is. And at a super high level, that's really what it is. You're controlling multiple players. In this case, in public, publicly facing smart TVs is the direction that we're going in. And so that's basically at a really high level what we're working on here. And there's a snapshot of their GitHub. By the way, their GitHub, the developers over there seem very engaged, up to date, and pretty responsive. So we're pretty excited about piSignage. This is absolutely not a review of piSignage in any way. We're not recommending piSignage in any way. We're just going through the steps and processes that we took to get it installed to this point. And then as we go about extending the functionality of piSignage, we'll continue to update this. And this is also just a massive invitation to people who may have more server-side development experience than we do. By all means, we would love to collaborate, and there's just a tremendous amount of opportunity here. So by all means, get in touch if you'd like to engage with us, and I'll extend a more formal invitation at the end of this. So let's start to move forward a little bit here. The from their piSignage's GitHub repo, they give us very clear requirements for the system or the server side: Intel CPU-based VM, and a minimum of 2 gigs memory, and 30 gigs of hard drive space, and it's got to be a Linux OS. So taking those basic requirements, we arbitrarily chose DigitalOcean. You can go anywhere you want, of course, as long as you meet those server side specs, you're going to be fine. So don't feel like you got to use DigitalOcean. They're just pretty easy to spin up for testing and development, and they've served us well in the past, but this is not an ad for DigitalOcean by any stretch of imagination. So inside the DigitalOcean control panel, you can see here we chose this Ubuntu installation. We just selected this $10 a month option because if you look at the specs on that, pretty close, if not a little bit better than what are required. And we just went through the process, and that got us to a point. We called this project piSci for obvious reasons, and it gave us our IP address, which is going to be where we serve up our installation of piSignage's open source digital signage platform. So this is probably a good point to say too that if you, just in terms of prerequisites and where we're starting with this, we're assuming that if you're following along, that you're comfortable working in a terminal environment, that you're comfortable creating a user that can run SSH commands, and being able to get repos and move them over to your environment. If you're not comfortable with that stuff, there's just a ton of great resources available on the web, and as a matter of fact, we'll put in the comment section a couple of the people that actually taught some of us how to do this, which we're really grateful for. And this is our attempt to kind of start to share back as we start to learn and grow ourselves and get traction in the marketplace. We absolutely want to give back, and so that's a part of this. And just know that we're new to this, and we'll use the comment section heavily below, and make sure that these videos get better and better as we keep going. So I just wanted to put that caveat out there. If you're not comfortable setting up a droplet on DigitalOcean or Linode or wherever it is that you're going to serve your files up, and you're not familiar with working in a terminal environment, this probably isn't going to make a whole lot of sense to you, and it'd probably be a good stopping point. And check out the comments below, because we'll leave some places to go for you to find the resources that you need. Okay, so we've talked about our configs. We're going to work on the front end in the next video, which is actually configuring the application once it's up, so that we can start to serve content. But right now we are focused on server-side setup of piSignage. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 steps, 5 including deploy, but we're going to run through them. The first step is creating the runtime environment. We're going to install. It's going to be based on Node.js. We're going to install Node, Npm, and Git. Step 2, this runs on MongoDB database, and we're going to install and configure that in step 2. Step 3, we're going to install Ffmpeg and ImageMagick. Those are the handle the media files once you get the server up, obviously this is a media project, and so there's going to be images and videos and scrolling text and all kinds of things. And the piSignage developers are using Ffmpeg and ImageMagick, and so we will need to install both of those. And then finally, step 4, step 5 combo. We're going to clone the repository from GitHub. We've got everything set up. We're going to clone, and then we're going to go to deploy. So that's what's ahead. It's maybe sounds a little bit worse than it actually is, but let's just get into it and see how we do. So this is from our tutorial. We're going to just jump right in. Here's our terminal screen, and we're going to follow the commands. No development here. We're just literally copying and pasting. Okay, we're going to do a sudo apt update just to make sure that we're running with the newest and most up-to-date packages on the system. So it's sudo apt update. Remember, we're just literally cutting and pasting these commands. No development, just setup. We're going to just clear this out here. We're going to, for our purposes today, I mean, the directory path that we install this in doesn't really matter because this is not the permanent home for this, but you may want to put a little bit more care into selecting where you deploy the application and what your file structure, that sort of thing. But for the purposes of here, we're just going to install it. Okay. Next up, we're running curl command. Set up. And we'll start to install Node.js here with that sudo command. It asks us to verify that we really want to install it, and we do. We hit yes, and it's going to go and work its magic. Check the version, and we've got Node version 8.10 installed. Okay. Next up, let's get npm installed. You see, just ran Node version to check the version. Obviously, we don't have npm installed, so we need to do that now. And sudo apt install npm. Again, it's going to ask us to confirm. So this is installing all of our package manager tools. All right. Let's check the version again. Just npm v. And we've got 3.5.2. All right. It's a good start. Next up, we're going to install Build Essentials. This is a domain-specific thing, and it's not absolutely necessary, but we're going to use it today. And that's a wrap on step 1. We've got everything that we need to start there. Next is step 2, and we're going to install MongoDB. And we'll use a wget command. Okay. So we're importing the public keys here at this point with these 2 commands. and we're going to run a quick update again. Okay. Sudo apt-get install and MongoDB. This is right from the MongoDB website, by the way. And this is the database that's going to basically manage all of our files within the piSignage application. Okay. Next up here, we're going to, well, actually, let's see. In order here, we'll do systemctl, start it, create a list file. Okay. Check everything out here. Looks like loaded, active, and running. It looks like we are in pretty good shape with the database here. Bear with me for a second. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, we're back on track. Enable. I can actually run the command now, Mongo. That actually, just a little test, you don't have to do this, but by running the Mongo command, you actually launch the application, and to quit, and parentheses. And that's a wrap on the installation of MongoDB. Next, we're going to get into deploying Ffmpeg and ImageMagick. So we just ran the Npm install. Ffmpeg, it asks us again, do we want to, we're sure we want to do that? We do. We'll just follow these steps here. Take a minute. Again, the Ffmpeg is basically the framework that we're going to be using to manage our media content, the streaming, audio, video within the piSignage applications, and piSignage developers require that. So let's test it out here and see. We'll just do a version. And it looks like we're good. Yeah. Okay. So we're following these commands off of their website again. Everything, the links to that will be in the description below. We're literally just following step by step from their website. Okay. All right. Next up, we're going to install ImageMagick with the sudo apt install ImageMagick command. Confirm. Okay. On the ImageMagick website, they suggest that you restart Apache after install. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Okay. There we go. ImageMagick is installed, and we can move on to step 4, which is cloning the repository from GitHub. Now that we've got our runtime and our dependencies installed, let's go ahead and grab this from the GitHub repository. You can either get it from piSignage's GitHub repository if you want to work with ours, which will be configured for our abstraction layers in the future. Whichever one, it doesn't matter. Both links will be in the description below, but simply do a git clone. Now, the authors of piSignage, the developers, in their README file, they suggest that we make a couple directories. So let's see what we've got here. Now, notice on ours it says city signage server. Yours will say piSignage server, depending on where you got your got it from. But we're gonna cd into the new file system, and per the README file, we're going to create the media directory, which is make directory command, and media, right? And then within that, they said they require a underscore thumbnails directory. So we'll change directories and head into the media folder. Okay, see, we're in media now. We're going to make directory again, and this time underscore thumbnails. Okay. Now, this does have a package.json file, and that requires us to do a npm install in order to configure everything and zip everything up for production. So next up, we will do npm install and get all the extra dependencies that are were just brought over from the git file and the package.json file. Okay, so this is an issue we need to really kind of pay close attention to. We're going to run a sudo npm install with a global global command, and because I'm using a user's root and enter my password, it requires, and we'll go ahead and do the sudo npm install. This is definitely something I want to circle back on. If this was a production server, you definitely want to look at that for your own and for your own implementation of this and make sure it's the most secure. And as a matter of fact, I'll make sure that when we come back, we update the comments and maybe even update this. I don't want anybody following our lead on that particular thing if it creates a security concern for you. But with the sudo npm it installed, and it looks like we are in good shape. And that wraps up the step 4. So at this point, actually, you know what? There's just a couple last steps for the deployment that we suggest. If you're not familiar at this point, you really could just fire it up. I mean, you could just run node server.js and you'd be pretty good. But there's a couple optional things that we want to install here. We're going to install PM2 package manager, the sudo npm sudo npm install PM2 latest. And once the package manager is installed, we are also going to open up the port. So out of the box, the piSignage developers set this up on port 3000, and you're going to have to open up that port on, at least on DigitalOcean. So we'll do that with a sudo ufw 3000, and then just run. Because we installed PM2, we'll just run PM2 start server.js, or like I said, you could just use Node.js. Node server.js. So that's it. That's the deployment. And if we take our, remember, this is the IP address we got when we set up DigitalOcean, and we just configured and allowed access on port 3000. So I'm literally just going to copy and paste this. I'm going to pull up a browser. I'm going to paste, and there we go. Okay, so that's a good sign, right? We've got it. It's up and running now. In the README file, there is a default login, which is username pi, password pi. Obviously, that needs to be changed, and it will be changed. But when you first boot it up, you should come to this screen that requires, and you're going to use pi and pi. That's per the README file and the developers over at piSignage. And here we go. We're in. This is the completely raw, uncustomized, out of the box admin dashboard for your digital signage server. And you can see, just following along these URL strings here, it all looks like it is installed, and at least at first glance working. And that brings us to the end of what we were trying to accomplish in this video, is getting the piSignage open source server up and running on our own Ubuntu installation, and that's what we've done here. So next up, what we'll do is spend some time getting familiar with this, and in subsequent videos, we'll be looking at ways that we can extend the functionality of this dashboard, and that's where really the opportunity comes in for developers and media professionals to start thinking, when we start to add city screen into this, how they can start to take these traditional digital signage out of home media spots and start to make them into very interactive, highly engaging experiences for audiences, whether, like I said, it's in a doctor's office, a restaurant, a bar, an airport lounge, whatever. The sky's the limit, and it's about to get very exciting. So if you made it this far and you actually got it deployed, congratulations. If you see something in here in a way that we could maybe frame this better, or for any mistakes, especially I'm a little bit concerned about that npm, that sudo npm command, I'm definitely going to go back and look at that. Please comment and help us create a really great environment for smart TV developers and immersive media artists. And that's a wrap for now. Thank you very much, everybody, and please comment us up and get to know us. We're up to some really exciting things, and we'd love to work with you. Thank you very much.